But yeah, Beth, fear of failure is a massive thing. Whether you're thinking of changing career or starting a business, I think a lot of people are just, unsure whether it's the right thing to do. And for a lot of people, that creates inertia and they just don't really follow through with doing that. I mean, it's a massive leap to go from, a regular paycheck, a regular income, to potentially have to put in the time to retrain, to go into that and actually have a whole new identity where, there's a lot of pressure day to day. We know the rewards can be really good if you follow through with that, but a lot of people are put off from doing it.
Definitely. It's a lot though, isn't it? Like it is a lot if you think about it. If you're looking to kind of, change your career and start your own business, like I think you're thinking through time, finances, who you are as a person when you're kind of starting your own business as well. And that fear of failure and judgment and I think especially, well, I know for a fact it's more prevalent in women than it is in men as well. Yeah. And I feel like from a woman's perspective, I know for a fact that I fear like other people's opinions and judgment. If I was to fail, the Something Else network or my other side project, that, you put so much energy into something.
Yeah. And you put yourself out there into the world.
And you put, and that, even that itself, especially in today's world, like, you've got to do the whole social media thing really in order to be successful these days. And you have to put yourself on, the whole like personal brand piece these days, you've got to have a personal brand in order to be a successful business owner. Like that in itself, like, is a lot of pressure. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like you're kind of like exhausted in a way before you even like start to do something.
Especially if you have a business, like you said, that's very personable as well, where it is a service or something, people really, people buy from people. So, if you're just like, ultimately you've got to be out there putting yourself on camera. And I think imposter syndrome's a massive thing.
Yeah,
and,
I was just going to say, like the imposter syndrome really starts to take over in that way, I think, because, you're just second guessing yourself all the time. You're just like, is this the right thing? And bear in mind, if it's someone that doesn't have much experience in a new industry maybe that they want to get into, they've never started a business before. Like there's so many different parts of a business that you have to consider, like accountancy, your finances, your marketing, your sales, like dependent obviously on what service it is you're offering. You have to become very quickly a one-man band to get things off the ground, typically, dependent on what it is. So it's quite overwhelming, really. Like it's understandable that so many people choose not to start because of almost the amount of things you have to think about even before you take that first step.
Yeah. And I feel, to be honest, in a way, just to give a bit of counterbalance, because, it's like probably loads of people now are thinking, I was going to set up that business. Now, it sounds too stressful. It sounds too pressure.
Don't agree.
That isn't our plan here. This isn't our goal. But
just
really,
like I do have two, so it's
you're hedging your bets here just in case.
You still do it, yeah.
But I think as we look at things, I imagine the vast majority of success stories of people out there, whether you're an aspiring musician or an entrepreneur or someone who's literally just made the leap from going, well, I was doing, say, an interior designer. You might have worked for an interior design business and you go, do you know what, I'm going to go out on my own. And you might have tripled your wages or your whatever. It might have been a really painful 12 months, but you have kind of morphed into doing it and gone out on your own. And there'll be so many people out there who look successful on the outside and who are successful on the outside, but have probably gone through all the same things that people are worried about early on. Like we said, imposter syndrome. Will I be good at this? Will I be a good fit? Will I be able to do it? Like, what will I do if I haven't got a nest egg to go, until things kind of work out for themselves? But I think ultimately you just got to really push yourself and go for it because you only get one chance or you only get a few chances to make it happen in life.
Definitely. I think what you said there about, your existing industry as well, like that is a really good way of almost starting a new business, because if you really know and understand your own industry, you've got that existing experience to be able to start something yourself as well. Obviously, you need to kind of make sure you look at your legalities and terms and conditions depending on what it is.
Yeah, here you go, disclaimer.
yeah, as an example, my dad did that. So he worked in the kind of catering supply industry, built a good career, built good contacts within it, and decided to go on his own and has created a really successful business. Like he's a solopreneur. You know, he actually came into that industry quite late in life in the grand scheme of things, but worked hard and then saw the opportunity there, having taken the skills that he'd learned. So I think, you know, it doesn't always need to be something brand new as well. It can be kind of where are the gaps in your existing market, in your existing industry that you think you could fill, and that you could kind of take your own ideas and, you know, whether it's do it better, do it new, whatever it is. I think that's a really good way to look at these things as well.
Yeah, you're right. And I think consultancy is a big thing. People could morph in from their role. You know, I know somebody who's actually made redundant, and then they didn't have any terms in their contract that says they couldn't non-compete, and then 6 months later they were earning double what they were earning and actually pretty much doing the same job with clients. Same with another friend who set up his own car dealership. You know, he was working for a big brand, things got a bit stale, he decided to go ahead and just really do this himself. Of course, you know, there's that unknowingness the first few months, but you know, really is like kind of hitting the ground running now. So yeah, I think sometimes it's a case of taking that leap and knowing that maybe your skills and your experience and your network is probably worth more than what you're being paid, you know, 9 to 5. You know, we're not really incentivized beyond the odd bonus and maybe some great schemes to be completely loyal all our life. If you sometimes have got something gnawing away at you and saying, do you know what, I can do this myself. And don't get me wrong, another disclaimer, entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
No.
So, you know, we're not pushing people down that road at all. But one of the most important things is that we always discuss here in an age of AI is that it's the people who are going to be the first movers who take, you know, this leap if their industry is potentially at risk. Always say, check your 5-year AI risk rating on the Something Else website, you know, do something else to AI to see that. And obviously, if you feel like the headwinds are coming towards you, then maybe it's worth looking at that. Or again, using one of our tools to potentially look at seeing like what, you know, quite aligned careers are. That aren't necessarily completely down that line, but what your skills could be repackaged up and used for something else in the near future as well.
Yeah, the transferable skills analysis for me is the key here, is like really understanding like what your skills are based on what your past career and current career is, because I think that's really helpful just to really kind of go, oh yeah, like they're my skills actually, like that's what I could work on more, that's what I could transfer over. Because I think sometimes even me, like it's hard to actually see your skills sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like unless it's like there in black and white, you're like, oh yeah, I am quite good.
Sometimes do you think that's a British thing, or do you think that's just generally like, you know, because
that's
you know,
my imposter syndrome. That's me just, you know, forever. You know, I definitely punish myself more than I should, but I think sometimes you need something in black and white, or you need someone to say like, you know, you're good at this, like to see it and see that potential in yourself.
That's a really good point, because I think, you know, we do have this blind spot as humans, because let's face it, we'd all go around like egomaniacs if we kept going like, I'm the best at this, or I'm not, you know, you get the odd person out, but try to avoid those people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh no, they'll be at the barbecue. But, you know, like the vast majority of people, you know, like, you know, they obviously, you've got to have confidence in life. You've got to have self-love. You've got to have all of this stuff. But ultimately, you know, I think it's other people. Well. It is. Yeah, that's a big issue. But I think it's usually other people who point that out to, you know, oh, you're good in a crisis. Oh, you know, you've got a good approach to this. Well, you can usually see, you know, like you know, the right, you know, usually choose the right answer or something like that. And sometimes maybe it's just so subconsciously in here that you just think, you know, maybe you're just on autopilot. But yeah, I think being able to understand those skills that are going to be really strong in the future is a really good thing, and almost repackage them up then in terms of like, you know, being a bit more bolder. You know, just thinking out loud, I wonder like if, you know, like say you go on LinkedIn or Indeed, or, you know, there's Jack and Jill, there's all these great sites where you can look for a job. But I wonder like in the future whether it will be less about like, I put in a search term for community management or marketing manager or something like that. And it'll be more like, you know, I'm going to scrape your LinkedIn profile for every single, you know, minute kind of like skill that you've picked up over the years, or other kind of ways that it's going to be almost like rebundling it, and that the end job isn't necessarily a stuck title or something. It's going to be the person has almost created an AI chatbot, and they've gone, this is the kind of person I'm looking for. It doesn't matter if they were in this industry or that. You know, there's a lot of linear, like non-linear Venn diagrammy stuff, which I'm probably giving somebody here a $10 billion startup idea here.
Idea.
And please do start it up. But,
enjoy.
You know, yeah, but if it pulls all of this data in, then, you know, I think that shows people that maybe they haven't got to be stuck in that, you know, if they've traditionally been a marketing manager, well, maybe the next leap is to be this or that or something like that as well. You know, I think if you're an HR or a hirer, you're going to have to be a lot less rigid yourself by just going, ooh, no, not for me. I mean, let's face it, AI is reviewing a lot of applications coming in already. So it might even be that the AIs are doing this already and actually just scraping the CVs and going, this is the kind of person. Just think mindset needs to be a slightly more leap in terms of thinking a bit more outside the box. You know, we don't have to get somebody who's completely pigeonholed in 30 years of marketing experience to do this. Could be they come from a different industry with different skill sets, but that's the kind of person we need on the team, because the team is a bit more fluid than, you know, like than very, you know, hierarchical roles, which have kind of been the tradition that's been needed.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting on the like CVs and job recruitment and all that world. Like, I feel like that's something that is going to really shift as well, isn't it? In terms of, you know, how almost like how that evolves over time, you know, like in terms of, I'm going to give you an example to validate my point. So a friend of mine has been in multiple interviews recently where she could see that they were reading off an AI like script, like essentially because she'd had multiple interviews and they'd basically said the same thing. So that she was there in an interview with them and they'd be typing the question in AI and then they'd relay the answer. And you're like,
wow, not even wearing like Google Glass or the Facebook Ray-Bans or whatever. It's
like, isn't that insane? Like it's the future of kind of like recruitment, I think. So segue completely.
Well, first off, but I think it's a good point. I mean, good on your friend actually for getting the interview, because let's face it, we keep reading about hundreds of people who never even get to an interview for that one job. You know, thousands of people applying for the same one.
She was the interviewer, so she was doing she was the interviewer. That's what I mean. So she wasn't doing that. She was the interviewer, so she knew that the person that she was interviewing was doing that because she could see them doing it, and then she could see them reading, and then other people had done a similar thing, so they were saying the same answers. So it's just like,
well, this is it.
Kind of,
you know,
like how do you go?
Well, no, it's just going into that whole homogenized world we talked about in the past, that, you know, if everybody's got the similar answers and similar whatevers, you know, you almost become you know, I mean, this has always been the case anyway with interviews or whatever. You kind of almost have to become the person that they want. And then, of course, over time, you know, your own personality comes in. And let's face it, that's hopefully what people are hiring you for anyway, is that you're going to bring your personality to it. And that's the extra 10% that you're going to give to the company, is that, you know, that's how people thrive at companies, because they can come in. But I think just generally, if people are, like I said, I think fluidity is the word almost, because maybe teams aren't going to be needed so much. I remember Coinbase reading about this. They made so many people unemployed recently. I think it was in like 5,000 people or something. Wow. And they basically said, we're getting rid of our entire middle management, just not needed anymore. And we're going to basically be reducing a lot of the senior managers. Our engineers and that are going to come up. There's going to be less hierarchy. It's going to be more like, you know, pod management and stuff like this. And that's just, you know, they said, we see where the world of work is going in terms of, you know, AI. And we are now right-sizing ourselves for the future, that a top-down hierarchy doesn't work anymore for a fast-moving startup. Everybody has to work independently and actually be able to make decisions themselves daily. So it's a big thing, and I think if you're seeing the tech startups doing that, or the big tech giants doing this now, that's going to have to come watering down, whether you're a team of 10 or 15 or whatever, because companies will resize based on their needs. Because what they're going to do, start saying, go for a 3-hour lunch break or whatever, or realize people just sitting around the office saying, you know, either the managers and the people at the top have to become more visionary and say, this is where we're going, we're going to work faster, we're going to move harder, we're going to do this. Or if it's business as usual, resizing will happen quite quick, I think, because ultimately, the word redundancy will come in that actually their role has become redundant just because the roles disappeared over time as well.
Yeah. It's that thing of like everyone needs to be prepared to get their hands dirty. It's not enough anymore to kind of just sit there and like you say, that middle management tier to me is one of the most dangerous out there right now. If you're not essentially, if you're not getting involved, you're not working on the day to day, I think they're the people that are the ones that will go, because they're being paid more, but they're not doing the work on the ground that needs to be done. It's kind of a concern, really.
Well, it's giving people autonomy, and it's giving trust that it's going to hopefully make them, do their job better. Obviously, you've got to hire the right people, and this potentially comes from experience they're going to need, but they're going to need to have that confidence to go and do this. And actually, I think if they're working in a API, AI kind of led world, they're potentially going to have the checks and balances put in with their workflows anyway, if they're using a unit anyway. Yeah. So that could be that it removes that, because almost you could see a world where company policy and company goals and company targets are uploaded to, a specific chatbot that says that, and everybody's inputs come into this. If you're going off track, you don't really need a middle manager,
Yeah, exactly.
Chatbot will come to you in a bot or something like that, and when you check
big
holidays, it just
light
goes
on your screen, like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're going dystopian here, but you know what it's like, So
potential.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time, but I think anybody who's in terms of hiring right now, there will be obviously brand new services out that are coming out really, really soon.
Yeah, just to come back on that point on the future of recruitment, because I do think it's quite interesting. Like, do you see a world where, the world where it's like you have to do a video CV instead of a written CV because we want to prove that you're human and that your personality comes across. I also see a world where video interviews become obsolete because people actually want to meet in person to see the type of person that you actually are without a laptop screen in front of you, because that to me is the best form of interview there is possible.
I mean, it makes complete sense, and beyond, we go down a rabbit hole if we start talking about avatars and video, AI created video models or whatever, they're going to replace you on an interview. No, that's just far too meta for today's conversation.
God, no.
It's like, but I think if we were
what
going
hair colour do you want to choose?
Yeah, exactly.
No.
The company brand or whatever like that to get me the job. You do your research, like, well, who's the hiring manager's favourite model or whatever. Oh, I don't look like them or whatever. I don't know. You can see it happening.
What's the interest? We'll meet in a virtual world.
Yeah, it is. I'll see you in the metaverse. Like, there's still three people hanging out in there.
Yeah.
But no, there's genuinely, if you look at it, I think there are. It was a bit of a pain to do video. I don't know if you remember applying for a few jobs a few years back, and sometimes you had to upload a video and it'd be like, speak like a real person, blah, blah, blah. But actually, it kind of makes sense, really. It really does, because actually that's when you can get your personality across. And look, let's face it, I think the word with AI is about efficiency. That's probably one of the main words. If someone had to ask me to describe AI, I probably would say efficiency is one of the first words that stands out to me.
Yeah, for
sure. So if you've got what you've just basically described, like the video proof early on, you can probably cut out all those first interviews, that someone would have to do. When you meet like a recruiter the first time and then it's maybe a follow-up or whatever, you can probably get straight to it, as opposed to having a 4-week, 6-week cycle or something. It can just be like filter through it. The only issue you've got is when robots and AI just becomes a bit too cutthroat and just as a bit like, good people will fall through the net because they just don't get through the thing. Do you want to hear a real story? Obviously, I don't think I've ever told you this story before.
Please. Always, JK.
Here you go. This is, we have no followers yet, so if this goes viral, we will see.
Here we are.
I got rejected from McDonald's early on in my career.
All right.
And when I say that, I'd come out of uni.
Yeah.
And they, put it this way, I did my dissertation on the growth of American fast food industry. Because basically I did American studies and psychology. So I was like, again, interesting to me. So I thought I'll do this. I came out and I wasn't really too sure what to do. It doesn't massively prepare you for like a whole life and, and whatever. So I applied for the McDonald's trainee management scheme, which was going to be like, you're 21, 22 and you're thinking, wow, amazing salary, amazing benefits.
Yeah, it
did
was
my
great
dissertation.
scheme.
This sounds great. you know, you work your way up in a restaurant for a couple of years and then you might become senior management or whatever. So, you know, forget all of the whatevers, you know, I still like a McDonald's now and then. So, you know, who doesn't?
Who
I
doesn't?
applied for it all. I thought, do you know what? I could see myself doing this. It wasn't the dream, but I was like, do you know what? This is going to get me on the track to doing something with my life. And I use my degree. So I filled in all these like you know, I can't remember what it was called, not psychometric testing or something like that. Filled it all in and thought, I've aced that, you know,
Nailed
like
it.
that, you know, I've nailed it, got that. And I got this rejection email back that just goes, sorry, Mr. Quirk, I'm afraid you're not the kind of person we're looking for. And like, you know, literally just an email. So I was like, what could I possibly have put in wrong that didn't get me a job at McDonald's? Like, you know, as that. Don't get me wrong, when there's a crypto winter on, I'm thinking like, maybe I need to get a job at McDonald's again.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, but, you know, when it came through, I was like, well, so I went and tried to find the UK hiring manager, I tried to do this, and they're like, sorry, we don't accept anybody who's been through the psychometric. Once you've done it, you're out. So I was like, you know,
what?
So, yeah, so and it just seemed really weird. And don't get me wrong, things have worked out okay. And maybe like, you know, maybe things could have been good. Maybe I could be doing whatever. I might still be working, frying fries in the back or something and go, I wasn't quite out for management.
You wouldn't be here on a Monday night with me, Jonny, that's for sure.
I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't. And that would be a shame. But maybe they'd just put me on like fries or burger juicy in the back. But that would just made me think like, you know, the background I had, which was in hospitality, working for so many years. I had loads of bar experience. I had loads of restaurant experience, hospitality experience. I even did my dissertation, like I said, on the fast food history.
Yeah.
Marketing ideas from courses I'd done.
Yeah.
But you fail that first test that was just like that and you're out. And that kind of potentially makes me think about like where the world is going now in terms of like, you know, if you're like, you could be shit hot on paper and a really good personality, but if you don't get through the AI screening, you know, sorry, that's that gone. So
it's like it's like swipe right all over again, isn't it? It's like, you know, how quickly we make decisions on dating apps these days, but you know, AI is basically going to be swiping right.
Yeah, exactly. Like the shame, you'll just be like, how is this possible? But I think that's maybe where where we get to a point, like where do we reach a point in like 5 years' time where the human has to be put back into the system? Because actually, do you know what? They realize that actually robots and AI, you know, isn't always going to be the answer. You know, I've got one more final thing to say, Beth, and this was about a surgeon friend of mine, and he was saying about how AI is basically being used in, you know, theaters and stuff like this. And he was saying, like, in the old days, they'd have 10 x-rays up on the screens, and they'd have somebody who goes through and they'd have to check to make sure that fracture is there or that's cancer or whatever. And he said, you know, obviously they use AI now to get stuff through, and that's really, really good that they can do it quicker and more efficient and better cost. But he said there's so many people who've been trained up in radiology over the last 5-10 years to get there. And now they're realizing that instead of needing 10 of them, they only need 2 or 3 of them to do the job. So there's a 70 to 80% reduction in staff for that role. They've trained a lot to get there. That's just one thought. So they might, again, pivot into another role. They might pivot into something else. But that's a bit of a sign of those efficiencies coming, that the market won't be able to take that speed of change in that industry so quickly. If someone spent years training to get there and then realize that actually they, you know, that they need to think now what to move into potentially as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
and also I still don't feel bad about McDonald's. I still, like, I go there a few times, you know.
Yeah, it's still not quite taking your chicken selects away from you.
It's got to be always a you know, double cheeseburger, you know, maybe 2 double cheeseburgers and fries. I know my kids wire me up on it since they got that new Saver menu. Like, you know, now they give you a side of a burger as well. Like, why do you need 2 burgers? I'm like, look, if it was good enough for Joey and friends for, you know, 2 pizzas, I could have 2 burgers. They're not the big Macs anyway. So
I'm a chicken select girl, I have to say. You know, I've only eaten McDonald's twice, and only chicken selects since I've gone sober. So
that is a big thing. Since I did, I mean, my McDonald's consumption has gone down a hill since I stopped drinking. It would be like 2 or 3 a.m. Yeah, this is going to sort me out. Tomorrow I'll be fine after I've had this massive bucket, you know. Now, you know, you're sober and you're like, nah, I'm all right, thanks. I'll go get some real food. So, double win there, double win.
Double win.
Couple win.